All right. Enough said, right? You know what this video is going to be about. Yep. Tesla. So some background. Tesla has been hitting 52-week lows. Prices of something like, I think it should be 167. Let me get a pen here and correct that. Not 176, 167. And before I go any further, not investment advice. So anything you see on this channel is opinion, entertainment, engagement, information. You do something with it. You win, you lose, on you. You make a profit, you make a loss, also on you. Your money, your responsibility. All right. So this video is on Tesla, which is sitting at 52-week lows, $167. I clearly transposed these numbers here. And the point of this video is I am going to make the case that come this time next year, so it's kind of like a prediction video of a kind, but I don't want the trolls to just come and hammer me. So this is a prediction video that is not a prediction video. Hey, you can only do the best you can, right? Hey. Anyway, I believe that this time next year, yeah, $1,000 per share for Tesla. $1,000 per share for Tesla. And it's going to be because of this. Okay, well, this is just a question mark, but why? I mean, you're thinking like, okay, Paul, like, shh, Tesla, Elon's in all these controversies with Twitter, he sold a bunch of shares and all this stuff going on. People say he's distracted. He's got his focus in all the wrong place. And in my opinion, I think Tesla at this point doesn't actually need that much of Elon's attention. I think it is a pretty finely tuned machine that has got things that just are now on like a conveyor belt of just things that like you can market, they're going to come. And they're not small things. I mean, we're talking about some pretty big developments that are coming. All right, so let's go back to, so here we are, $167. How did we get here? How did we get here? Well, there was a growth stock crash. Yeah, starting about September of 2021 till about now, still kind of like fading out. We're seeing some marginal new lows in some number of stocks. People are super negative, super bearish, super pessimistic, the opposite of BOP. So growth stock crash, that's responsible for, let's say, 1/3 of it. Elon sold a bunch of Twitter stock to fund the purchase of Twitter. I think it was like 7-8 billion, and there's fears that he might sell more, so that keeps the stock price a little bit under pressure, gives people a little bit, nervousness about buying into the stock. And then, of course, there's the Fed. I mean, Fed interest rate hikes and inflation associated with that, it makes people less confident, because if there is going to be sustained inflation, which I believe is not going to be the case, but if they were, and any number of people are willing to go with that case, it's fairly clear to anyone that's paying attention to the actual details that we're not going to have a long-term sustained inflation. But there are a bunch of people who believe this is true, that we're going to go through some replay of the 1970s. These people are crazy, but hey, everybody's entitled to their point of view. It's fine. They can go for it. No need to troll me. I'm entitled to my viewpoint. I think that's a crazy point of view. But nonetheless, Fed raising interest rates, worried about that. Of course, if you have inflation, future cash flows are worth less than what they would be if you had disinflation or just steady inflation or deflation, like what I believe is going to unfold over the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years. and sustain long-term deflation, which would increase the value of future cash flows. So this is how we got here, 167. All of these things sort of combined. I'd give it a third, a third, a third, just to be, complete the thing. All right, 1% for the unknown. One third would be a 99%. So 1% for who knows. All right, so last time Tesla got to an all-time high. How did it get here? Well, primarily it got here off the scaling up of these two cars for Tesla. One was the Model Y, which is now in many countries the most popular selling electric vehicle, and soon in many countries going to be simply the most popular selling vehicle, period, because it's an SUV, it's a mid-size SUV, it's about the size that most people like or want. It's an EV, it's got good range, all the things, checks to all the boxes that people want. And then the Model 3, which is supposed to be at about 35,000. I think it sells for between $38,000 and $40,000. Still very popular car, but Model Y is, in my judgment, and if you go and look at most people who have been following Tesla for a long time, they think Model Y is going to far surpass the sales of any other model. And I've skipped Model S and Model X because those are like little niche, small little sellers for them. Model Y and Model 3 is really how it got to its all-time high of $407, which was probably about a year ago, more or less. All right, so then comes the big question. What is going to make Tesla stock go to an all-time new high? An all-time new high of $1,000. After all, the market knows about Model Y, and even anything I've told you about the Model Y, a lot of people, they've included that. They kind of know about it. And the market's not going to be like shocked or surprised or stunned as a result if Model Y sales become, a big deal, become the fastest selling or the best selling car even in, let's say, the US, which, would be like a really, really big deal. No one's going to be like stunned, like, oh my God, I never thought that that's possible. Lots of people are thinking that's possible. So that's then in the stock because people who are thinking that will have bought the stock in anticipation of that. So you're not going to get some big, huge, incredible upside from it. So it's got to be something new. It's got to be something new, right? So just to give some background before we get into why I believe Tesla can go to $1,000 next year. At $167, yeah, I sometimes get these things wrong and I gotta revise. So Tesla has a market capitalization of $565 billion, which you get by multiplying the share price times the number of shares. Many people are only focused on the share price, but I keep trying to tell folks, you got to be aware of the market capitalization, which is the stock market value. The share price is just one piece of what you need to know. A lower share price by itself, with a very large number of shares outstanding, can lead to a very large company. And the idea being that the sort of like the smaller the company relative to the opportunity, the bigger your upside, right? That makes sense, right? Small the company relative to the size of the opportunity. And for Tesla, what's the size of the opportunity? Well, it is the market for cars, it's the market for autonomy, which is a brand new market. And then there's, other markets like for pickup trucks, for trucks, that it is going to go after. So let's just say that Tesla went to $1,000. So pretty easy, right? $1,000 times 3.16 billion shares. Yeah, Tesla would become the most valuable company on earth in the stock market. It will blow away Apple, assuming that Apple doesn't go up from here and keep up with it. But just as it stands, Tesla would become the largest company on the planet, and it would be huge. Now, hey, I'm just going to add a little bonus content that I think that as a upside target, I think that Tesla long term, let's say 2030, $10,000 stock, $30 trillion company. But that's not the subject of this video. That one I'll do another time in another way. But let's get to why I believe Tesla can get to $1,000 by the end of 2023. So about this time next year. So here we are, 167. When we got to $407, which was the previous all-time high, driven by the Model 3 and the Model Y, we've gone through that. So what about $1,000? How can we get there? Well, if you've been paying attention, you know that they are getting ready to start shipping the Cybertruck sometime in 2023. The Cybertruck is this extraordinary event, not just for Tesla, but really for the world of EVs. It's going to be a huge, massive pickup truck that looks like it's out of Blade Runner. If you remember that movie, I mean, that's really what this truck looks like. It's all angles, no curves. It's absolutely, absolutely massive and huge. I don't need to put a picture up. Everyone knows what the Cybertruck looks like. And as it currently stands, they have over 1.3 million reservations for the Cybertruck. In other words, they've got 3 years, maybe 4 years worth of production accounted for if you want to believe the reservations. There's FUD about the reservations. It's like, oh, well, Tesla only asked for $100, so people just threw it in. I can tell you, I have a reservation for a Cybertruck, and I am stoked to get it. That's going to be my daily driver, and I'll be driving it a lot because it is just badass in a really, really badass kind of way. And once you drive that, I don't think you're going to want to drive anything else. That's what I think. So Cybertruck, I mean, is going to be huge. So I think the general guidance is that they believe that they're going to deliver some number of them starting 2023. And while they won't be delivering 1 million of them in 2023, remember, the market looks forward. Once production begins, people will start to anticipate that, hey, deliveries of Cybertruck are going to start to ramp up in 2024 and 2025, and people will start to bid Tesla stock higher in anticipation of those deliveries happening. So you've got the critical catalyzing event for Cybertruck happening next year, and the market will look ahead and start to price those sales, those deliveries for 2024 and 2025 well ahead of those deliveries actually happening. So that's catalyst number one, if you will. The other thing that happened recently is that Tesla delivered its first Tesla Semi to Pepsi. Now, this is some beast of a machine. I mean, the videos of it like hauling actual pretty heavy cargo against a regular diesel-powered semi uphill was crazy to watch. I mean, it just blew by the diesel semi. So this thing is absolutely incredible. They're going to have it where it can charge up in something like under 2 hours from full. However, it would not require a full charge all the time. You would just go from point to point. Tesla Semi is also going to start to ramp up production starting 2023 and into 2024 as a cadence of delivery begins. Once again, stock market investors, people like you and me, are going to think like, hey, whoa, they're going to start to deliver a lot of trucks, and they're going to start to get more and more orders. So that backlog and order book is going to start to fill. And very rapidly, it's going to be easy to come up with a financial model for how much sales is going to be generated, how much profits are going to be generated, because Tesla has a certain profitability ratio. And the vast majority of the expense of putting together these, whether it be the Cybertruck or the Tesla Semi, really is in the battery. So you know the underlying profitability of all of these machines. So the market's going to look forward and start to price that into Tesla stock starting 2023. This is something that so many people get wrong. They think that the actual event needs to happen. But the reality is that once investors have confidence that the event is going to happen, people start to buy in advance, in anticipation of that event. And the last one, which is perhaps the most controversial, is autonomy. In other words, self-driving. Now, if you go on Twitter, the folks that have access to full self-driving, and we're talking about for the EVs, right now it would not be applicable to the Tesla Semi yet, but if full self-driving autonomy can unfold over 2023, and I have a car that's got autonomy, autopilot as it's referred to, and I can tell you on the highways, it's at somewhere between 90 and 95%. I would say on sort of bigger regional roads, it's at probably like 80%. In other words, if you have to deal with traffic lights, stop and go, it can deal with that pretty well. Local roads, I would say it's probably at like 60, 65%. But I have seen videos of people posting videos of their self-driving trips on Twitter. And in certain areas, self-driving is definitely happening everywhere on highways, regional roads, local roads. So we start to see autonomy really start to become much, much more clear that it's unfolding. Again, stock market investors are going to be like, people are going to opt in to get full self-driving capability, which is a software upgrade for Tesla. And that's this huge growth that because they've got now this massive installed base of cars, they're going to be delivering even more cars in 2023 and beyond, where a lot of people, once they're convinced, persuaded that autonomy is something that works, is useful, is going to be worth it for them, they will essentially just go to their car, touch the display, and buy it. And with that, that's a huge amount of revenue across millions and millions of cars. So autonomy, if you believe the folks that are testing it, seems to be somewhere between, let's say, 80 and 90%, depending on where you're looking at. The biggest learning curve, if you will, is on local roads. However, there's now hundreds of thousands of cars feeding data, whereas before it was just thousands of cars. So the rate of change, the rate of learning is rapidly going up with each passing day. So there's a strong possibility that you will see this catalyst also get triggered in 2023. All right, I'm very quickly want to mention the 10,000 target for 2030 would be driven by things like robo-taxis. Elon's talked about putting out a $25,000 car. That would be super affordable to lots of people. And then the Tesla bot, which, most people dismiss, but, the thing about Tesla is that they talk about it, they work on it, and they bring it to market. And it's almost always going to be something that really matters to their sales and their profits. So what's the likelihood of any of this unfolding? People will give you lots of FUD. And, oh, Tesla's going to go bankrupt. Demand is not going to be there. Listen, folks, I mean, you can go look at their financial statements. They've got almost nothing in inventory. Pretty much all of their cars sell pretty much the moment they're produced. So this is just total BS. So how are they going to be able to do what I'm talking about? Well, they've got two new plants that they're ramping up, one in Austin and one in Berlin. And with those two plants at full production, it's estimated that Tesla will get to 2.1 million cars production in 2023. So that would make them about the size of BMW. I mean, that is absolutely astonishing for a company that came public, what, in 2009? So, yeah, I mean, so in 14 years, they will have built a company that is as big as BMW, which has been around for, I think, like 100 years. So that's astonishing level of growth, just absolutely mind-blowing level of growth that no one would have believed if you told them, heck, even like 2-3 years ago. And then when you think about, like I said, autonomy across this many cars, and it's going to be whatever, $5,000 more. It's just a lot of money. If they sold it on a subscription basis, it would be recurring revenue. So you can see there's a lot of profitability levers that Tesla can really trigger. Then if you applied autonomy to the semi, these again are just additional revenue sources that no one really even is currently thinking about, but it would definitely apply to my Tesla $10,000 forecast. All right, what about in terms of finances? Tesla is profitable. They generate operating cash flow based on the last 4 quarters, something like $13 billion for the last 4 quarters, 1 year. They got cash in the bank, 21 billion. Also got Bitcoin, a 1.26 billion. Hey, I am super bullish on Bitcoin. And let's just say that Bitcoin were to go to $250,000, which if you watch my previous video from last week, Tim Draper, true OG of Bitcoin, says it could go there by June of 2023. Well, that $1.26 billion is going to be what, nearly 10 times that? No, more than that, because we're at like 17,000. So it would be 1.5 times that. So they'd have suddenly a ton of cash that nobody would have imagined that they would have. So there's just so much going on, even though people are very, 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 very bearish, very pessimistic, very negative about Tesla. There is actually incredible amount going on. That tells me that 2023, come this time next year, if you're a Tesla stockholder, I think you're going to be pretty happy because there's so much going on. So, all right. If you like this kind of analysis on Tesla, we also cover Bitcoin, growth stocks in general. I call it OGI, opportunity, growth, and innovation. This is, what really matters, in my opinion, in my judgment, for the next 3, 5, 7 years. If you're looking for that, well, there's a link below to my company, ATG Digital. The website is atgdigital.media. If you want to check me out for free, also link to my Substack in the description below. If you don't want to do any of that, well, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and come back again next week. This is Paul saying bye.